When my brother stole my wife, he thought he won. He mocked me, flaunted their love, and even tried to take my dog. But when my father exposed the truth at a family meeting, everything he built came crashing down. And as the FBI took him away, I simply smiled, because karma never loses. What started as betrayal turned into the most satisfying downfall you'll ever hear. Stay tuned, because this one is personal. I used to think my life was perfect. I had a beautiful wife, a cozy home, and a dog that adored me more than anything. Every morning, I'd wake up to the sound of her laughter and the familiar weight of our Siberian husky, Coda, jumping onto the bed. We had routines, inside jokes, and plans for the future, things that made life feel steady and safe. But looking back, I should have seen the warning signs. Landon, my older brother, was always the golden child. He walked into every room like he owned it, dressed in tailored suits and flashing a smug grin that screamed success. While I built my career quietly, working as a software developer, Landon climbed the financial ladder fast, handling investments for our father's real estate business. He had money, power, and the kind of arrogance that made him believe the world was his for the taking. And apparently that included my wife. At first, the signs were subtle, just little things I brushed off. Landon dropping by unannounced when he knew I'd be working late. The way he always managed to sit next to Olivia at family dinners. The offhand remarks about my small life. How he could never settle for a 9-to-5 job and a dog for company. I should have listened to my gut. But when you trust people, when you truly believe in them, you don't see the knife until it's already in your back. It all came crashing down on a Friday night. Olivia and I had a standing tradition, dinner at Luciano's, our favorite Italian restaurant. That night I got there early. I had flowers in one hand, a small gift in the other. A tiny silver keychain shaped like Coda, something I knew would make her smile. I was excited, happy. Then I saw them, tucked away in a corner booth, leaning close, laughing like they had their own little world. Landon's hand was on hers. Olivia was looking at him the way she used to look at me. For a second, my brain refused to believe what I was seeing. Maybe they ran into each other by accident. Maybe they were planning a surprise for me. But deep down, I knew better. And then Olivia looked up, saw me standing there, and smiled. Not guilty, not ashamed, just amused, like she had been waiting for this moment. Landon turned, leaned back, and smirked. Oh, hey. Little bro guessed the secret's out. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The world around me faded, drowned out by the ringing in my ears. Landon shook his head, chuckling. Come on, don't look so shocked. Olivia deserves more than whatever this is. He gestured vaguely, dismissing my entire life in one sweep. She deserves ambition, drive, someone who can actually give her the life she wants. And just like that, I understood. This wasn't just about Olivia. It was never just about her. Landon hadn't stolen my wife. He had taken her to prove a point, to show that he could. My grip tightened around the flowers. My jaw clenched so hard my teeth ached. But Olivia didn't flinch. She just leaned into him, resting her head against his shoulder. Landon makes me feel alive, she said, her voice soft but deliberate. You were comfortable, Noah. But I need more than comfort. Something inside me snapped. With a sharp motion, I swiped my arm across the table, knocking over their expensive bottle of wine. The deep red liquid spread like blood, dripping onto Landon's pristine suit. Gasps filled the restaurant. Landon shot to his feet, his expression shifting from smug to furious. Are you insane? He hissed, brushing at the stain. I stepped closer, my voice low and shaking. You think you won, don't you? He smirked again, but this time, there was something uneasy in his eyes. I didn't take anything, he said, feigning innocence. Olivia made a choice. I let out a breath, forcing myself to step back before I did something I'd regret. Yeah, I said, my voice eerily calm. She did. I turned, walking out of the restaurant without looking back. That was the night I lost my wife. But it was also the night I decided that this wasn't over. Because the thing about people like Landon, they think they're untouchable. They think they can take and take, and nothing will ever come back to them. But karma has a way of balancing the scales. And for Landon, the reckoning was just beginning. I barely remember driving home that night. My hands were still shaking when I pulled into the driveway, my mind replaying every second of what had just happened. The betrayal, the smug look on Landon's face, the way Olivia didn't even try to hide it. As I stepped inside, the only sound that greeted me was the familiar click of nails on hardwood floors. Coda. My husky padded up to me, ears perked, tail wagging slightly, waiting for our usual greeting. But I just sank onto the couch, head in my hands. Coda whined softly, pressing his weight against my legs, sensing something was wrong. Animals are like that. They know when your world is falling apart, even when the people closest to you don't seem to care. And at that moment, he was the only one in my life who hadn't betrayed me. Before I get deeper into this story, let me ask you something. Where are you watching from right now? Drop your country's flag in the comments below. And if you've ever had a pet that was there for you in ways people weren't, hit that like button. Because trust me, sometimes a loyal dog is better than any human. The next few days were a blur. Olivia never came home. She didn't call, didn't text. It was like I had been erased overnight. Then on Monday morning, I got an email from her. No explanation, no apology, just a request to start discussing the divorce process. It wasn't the words that got me. It was the coldness. Like 5 years together had meant nothing. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't have anything to say, but because I had nothing left to give her. A week later, the divorce papers arrived. And that's when things got ugly. Olivia wasn't just leaving me. She was trying to take everything. Half my savings. My car. And, unbelievably, Coda. Her lawyer actually argued that since Olivia had picked him out, she had emotional ownership of him. That was my breaking point. I could lose the house. I could lose the money. But I would never let her take my dog. When I told my sister, Emily, what was happening, she was furious. Unlike the rest of my family, who were either silent or trying to be neutral, Emily was the only one who cut Landon off completely. He's a narcissist, she spat over the phone. He doesn't just want what's yours. He wants you to know he took it. That's the only way he wins. But the thing about people like Landon? They don't know when to stop. A few weeks into the divorce, I started hearing whispers, small things at first. Some of my dad's employees mentioning that numbers weren't adding up in the company's finances. Late payments. Missing invoices. And then one day, Emily called me with something big. Dad's been looking into Landon's books, she said. And he's not talking, but I think he found something. I frowned. Like what? I don't know. But he's been working late at the office every night. And he just called a family meeting. I stiffened. Landon will be there, she added. That alone was strange. My dad rarely called family meetings unless something serious was happening. I exhaled, rubbing my face. I don't know if I want to see him, Em. I get it. But she hesitated. Dad sounded different. Like, really different. I think you need to be there. Something about the way she said it made my stomach twist. And so, against every instinct I had, I agreed. The next morning, as I got dressed, Coda sat at my feet, watching me carefully. He always knew when something was off. Don't worry, bud, I murmured, scratching behind his ears. I'll be back soon. But even as I said it, something deep in my gut told me after today nothing would ever be the same again. I pulled into my parents' driveway, my grip tightening on the steering wheel as I spotted Landon's sleek black Mercedes parked crookedly like he had rushed inside. Classic. He always acted like the world was his to take, like nothing could touch him. Stepping out of the car, I inhaled deeply, steadying myself. The last time I had seen him, he was smirking across a candlelit dinner table, acting like he had one. But something about today felt different. The air was thick, heavy with something I couldn't quite place. Inside, my father sat at his desk, the same mahogany beast of a desk where he used to help us with our homework when we were kids. He wasn't a loud man, never one to raise his voice. But when he looked up at me, there was something in his eyes I hadn't seen before. Landon was already there, sprawled on the couch like he owned the place, one arm draped lazily over the backrest. Olivia sat beside him, legs crossed, wearing a designer dress that screamed expensive. She barely looked at me. Emily stood near the window, arms folded tightly across her chest. The tension in the room was suffocating. I barely had a chance to sit before my father dropped the first bomb. Landon, he said, voice calm, measured. Want to tell me about the discrepancies in the company accounts? Landon's smirk twitched. What about them? My father slid a thick folder across the desk. $2 million missing. Payments that don't match invoices. Accounts that don't exist. Explain that. Landon let out a short laugh, the kind that tried too hard to sound relaxed. Dad, come on. It's a clerical error. Accounting can fix it. Already looked into it. My father's voice was ice. That's not an error. That's theft. Silence. For the first time in his life, Landon looked caught off guard. I leaned back, watching him. This was it. The moment the golden son realized he wasn't untouchable. You're crazy, Landon scoffed. I built this company. You wouldn't even have half of what you do without me. Built it? My father narrowed his eyes. You mean stole from it? He turned his laptop around, and on the screen was a list of transactions. Lavish vacations. Luxury shopping sprees. Mortgage payments on a house far beyond his means. All linked to company accounts. Olivia shifted beside him, her face paling as realization dawned. Wait, she said slowly, looking at him. You told me you were paying for all of this. That it was your money. Landon stiffened. Live, not now. You used stolen money? Her voice rose. Landon, what the hell? Shut up, he snapped, his charm slipping just for a second. But my father wasn't done. He pulled out another paper, this one older, with a different kind of weight to it. Now, let's talk about Mom's medical fund. The room went still. My stomach clenched. I hadn't expected this. Landon leaned forward, eyes darkening. Dad, you were in charge of handling her hospital payments, my father continued. Every month I transferred money into an account meant for her treatments. Only it never made it to the hospital, did it? Landon swallowed, but his face remained blank. You stole from her, my father said, voice quieter now, but somehow heavier. Your own mother. While she was dying. The words felt like a slap. Emily let out a strangled breath, her hand flying to her mouth. I could feel my pulse hammering in my throat. Landon shook his head, laughing, but there was no humor in it. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. My father cut him off. And you know how I found out? Because the night she passed away, while I was trying to call you so you could say goodbye, you were at the Grand Bellevue Hotel, whining and dining your new girlfriend. Security footage confirms it. I felt sick. Olivia looked like she might throw up. You stole from your own dying mother and spent it on hotel suites and five-star dinners? Emily's voice cracked. Oh my God. I thought you were just a selfish asshole, but you're... She didn't finish. She just shook her head, stepping back like she couldn't stand to be near him. Landon finally looked at me. His expression was unreadable. You think you're so much better than me? He muttered. I stared at him for a long moment. Then finally I spoke. I don't think I'm better, I said. I just think I'm not a piece of garbage who steals from his own family. My father took a deep breath and pulled out one last folder. My will, he said simply. I updated it. Landon's entire body tensed. What? You're out, my father said. You get nothing. No shares. No inheritance. No business. Everything goes to Noah. Landon shot up from the couch, knocking over a glass on the table. You can't do that. I already did. You think he can run this company? Landon scoffed, throwing a hand in my direction. He doesn't even want it. Maybe not, my father admitted. But at least he doesn't steal from his own family. Landon's breathing was ragged now, his fists clenching at his sides. Olivia was already shifting away from him. I could see it in her eyes, the wheels turning. The exit strategy forming. Well, I said, standing up. This is awkward. That was when the front door opened. Two men in dark suits stepped inside, flashing badges. Mr. Landon Carter, one of them said. We have a warrant for your arrest. Landon's face drained of color. Olivia shot up from the couch, grabbing her purse. I didn't know about any of this. One of the agents turned to her. Actually, Ms. Rivera, we need to speak with you too. Turns out some of those transactions went to an account in your name. Her mouth opened. Closed. Then she did the only thing she could, she bolted. Landon was still frozen. Dad, you're not serious. This isn't me, my father said coldly. This is the federal government. Turns out when you launder money through a legitimate business, they tend to notice. The agents grabbed Landon's arms, snapping cuffs onto his wrists. For the first time in his life, he wasn't the one in control. He looked at me, eyes burning. Noah, please. I tilted my head. Funny, I said. You never once said please when you were taking everything from me. Then I turned my back on him. As they dragged him away, I heard him shouting. Protesting. But it didn't matter. Because Landon had finally lost. And I had won, not by playing dirty. Not by taking revenge. But by letting him destroy himself. And damn, it was satisfying to watch. The house was eerily quiet when I got home. Coda trotted up to me, tail wagging, sensing something had changed. I sank onto the couch, exhaling slowly as he hopped up beside me, resting his head on my lap. I scratched behind his ears, staring at nothing in particular. It was over. For years, Landon had strutted through life like he was untouchable. Like he could take whatever he wanted, my wife, my dignity, my father's trust, without consequences. And now? Now he was sitting in a cell, his name plastered across news headlines for fraud, embezzlement, and grand theft. The golden son, the family's pride, the so-called self-made man who had built his empire on stolen money was exposed for exactly what he was. A fraud. I should have felt something more. Vindication. Satisfaction. But mostly, I just felt free. I slept better that night than I had in years. The fallout was brutal. Landon lost everything. His sleek black Mercedes? Repossessed. His designer suits and high-end watches? Sold off to cover his legal fees. His once loyal friends? Nowhere to be found. The same people who used to praise him, who laughed at his jokes and admired his success, abandoned him the moment the truth came out. Turns out money buys a lot of things, but loyalty isn't one of them. And Olivia? She didn't even wait for the trial to start. The second she realized Landon couldn't keep up her luxury lifestyle, she packed her bags and filed for divorce. She tried to spin the story, of course. Posted some long, dramatic rant about how she was a victim too, how she had no idea about the financial fraud, how she had been blinded by love. But people weren't buying it. Screenshots started circulating, emails and messages proving that she knew exactly what Landon was doing. She had helped him move the money. The last I heard, she was back living with her parents, her social media wiped clean. No more luxury vacations. No more designer shopping sprees. No more true love posts. Just silence. Meanwhile, my life? It had never been better. Dad followed through on his promise. He transferred full control of the company to me. At first, I wasn't sure if I wanted it. It had never been part of my plan. But then I saw the state Landon had left things in. The accounts he had nearly drained dry. The employees he had overworked and underpaid. The shady deals he had tried to cover up. So, I did something Landon never could. I cleaned up the mess. And slowly, the company started thriving again. Not because I was chasing wealth or prestige, but because I actually valued the people working for me. One day, I walked into my office and found Coda curled up on my desk, fast asleep. I chuckled, shaking my head. "You know, buddy," I murmured, scratching his head. "You're probably a better CEO than Landon ever was." He thumped his tail in agreement. Then, one afternoon, it happened. I was standing in line at my favorite coffee shop when I heard someone say my name. I turned and there she was. Olivia. She looked different. The confidence she used to wear like armor was gone. Her makeup was lighter, her clothes simpler. But it wasn't just her appearance. It was the way she hesitated. The way she looked at me, really looked at me for the first time in years. "Hey," she said softly. I raised an eyebrow. "Hey." She shifted awkwardly. I heard about everything. About Landon. And you taking over the company. I wanted to say congratulations. I nodded, offering a polite, indifferent smile. "Thanks." She glanced at the woman standing beside me. Her smile faded slightly. I didn't have to say anything. She already knew. There was someone new in my life. And she was everything Olivia wasn't: kind, genuine, honest. A woman who didn't see me as a stepping stone to a better life, but as someone worth standing beside. For the first time since she walked out of my life, Olivia looked uncertain. Like she had finally realized what she had thrown away. I held her gaze for a moment longer, then turned back to my date, grinning at something she said. And just like that, Olivia was nothing more than a lesson I had learned. 2 weeks later, I got a call. It was from the county jail. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the best of me. "Noah?" Landon's voice was different. Gone was the arrogance, the bravado. He sounded small. I said nothing, waiting. "I really messed up, didn't I?" he whispered. I exhaled slowly, shaking my head. "Yeah," I said. "You did." There was a long silence. Then, to my absolute shock, he started crying. "I didn't mean for it to get this bad," he choked out. I wanted to prove myself. To Dad. To you. I wanted to be the best." I closed my eyes. "You could have done that without destroying everyone around you." He sniffed, voice raw. I know, man." He hesitated. "I don't have anyone left. Dad won't talk to me. Emily won't visit. Olivia's gone. You're all I have." I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. Then I did something I never thought I would. I repeated his own words back to him. "Well," I said, my voice eerily calm. "This is awkward." And then I hung up. That was the last time I ever spoke to my brother. A few months later, he was sentenced to 20 years for fraud and embezzlement. Olivia was indicted as well, 5 years for aiding in financial crimes. And me? I moved on. The company thrived. I found someone who truly cared about me. And through it all, Coda remained my most loyal companion, never once wavering. One evening, as I sat on my back porch watching the sunset with Coda curled up beside me, I realized something. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need to ruin Landon or Olivia, because in the end, they destroyed themselves. And I just kept living. And that, I realized, was the best revenge of all. The biggest lesson from this story? Karma never forgets. Landon and Olivia weren't taken down by revenge, they destroyed themselves. When you betray others, take shortcuts, or act without integrity, it always comes back around. The best way to win? Live well, stay true to yourself, and let karma do the rest. Now, I want to hear from you. Did you enjoy this story? Drop a 2 in the comments if you liked it, or a 7 if it wasn't your thing. And if you believe in karma, hit that like button. For more powerful stories like this, subscribe to Mr.HeartVibes so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and remember, the best revenge is simply moving on.